to Fresh Leaf Forever, a podcast that gives you fascinating insights week after week. Here's your host, Vi Kumar.
Hey folks, welcome to another episode on podcast Fresh Leaf Forever. Today, I just wanted to focus on functional medicine. That's something that definitely needs to be given focus. And I'm here today with Dr. Bindu Alexander. Dr. A, as you're fondly called by your patients, welcome to the show.
Thank you.
Dr. Bindu Alexander is both ABIM certified and IFMCP certified, which means she is certified to do both internal medicine and functional medicine. And so there's no better person to talk about this integrative approach than Dr. A. So if you can start with your journey as an internist exclusively before, but then more recently an integrative wellness practitioner, what would you say is a major difference in your care regimen now?
Hi, everyone. Yeah, I've been in practice for a long time, graduated more than 25 years ago. Did the traditional practice for a long time, didn't get many of the results that I wanted with patients, and then started moving into, the functional concept, which shifts my perspective from disease management to true healthcare, right? Guiding folks towards understanding how the human body and mind work and listening to the body's messages received through symptoms. Also, lab work helps and guides, and offering patients the choice and the options to guide them towards health. I strongly believe that knowledge is power, and when patients are able to understand in simple terms what's gone wrong with their systems, then they now participate in their well-being, and it becomes like a collaboration, like a win-win. So my approach has changed, and I find that very rewarding.
Oh, awesome. That's great news right there. But if we want to just say what exactly is functional medicine and what is the underlying principle there, what would you say to that?
Yeah, well, functional medicine is I think is the future of conventional medicine. It identifies and addresses root cause versus it actually views the body as an integrated system and not a collection of independent organs that are divided by medical specialties. It treats the whole system, not just symptoms.
Okay. So when you say you address root causes of illnesses, how do you achieve this? For an average listener that's wondering, okay, you do lab work, when I walk into your office as a family practitioner or as my internal medicine doctor, how different is your approach now in terms of determining root causes of illnesses?
Yeah. Well, it starts, I think one thing that was always lacking in a traditional practice was time, right? We're seeing volume versus quality. And so what happens is you're rushing through everything, and then, you only have time to kind of prescribe medication and so I think the major difference is we take a lot of time to get a detailed history. Which I think is key to establish broken systems. The body is seen as a whole, with each organ playing its own part within that system, and it's not separate. So when we take a detailed history, we can start begin to break down the system and to see where things have gone wrong. The labs obviously do help us in supporting the diagnostic skill, and then based on patients' interest and affordability, there are more functional labs that can be done by specialty labs to go more in depth to see what's gone wrong. But I think it's just, people shouldn't feel limited because, they think functional medicine is expensive or anything. Even with very basic routine things and a good history taking, a lot of knowledge, or we get a lot of information that can already start with guiding us towards figuring out how to get healthy again,
Oh, that's very nice to hear. So it seems like it's like a systems-based approach where you kind of value the patient as an individual and not kind of box everyone into say a category and then throw them in there. And it seems like, the functional medicine aspect provides like a framework, so to speak, to kind of get to the root cause of illnesses. So I often have read that, like functional medicine, it says one condition, many causes, one cause, many conditions, right? So it seems like one condition can result from several things going on in the body. And so how would you categorize when I just say, okay, one condition, many causes, or one cause can lead to many conditions? So what exactly, like, are you able to achieve in terms of, the history taking and everything, and in being able to determine what exactly is going on?
Right. Yeah. And that, I guess that was the traditional approach, right? You diagnose, you give a disease a name, and then you just treat that disease, right? And then, so before you know it, the patient's on like 5 different pills for each system that's broken. And so, like, let's say, for example, diabetes, right? It's one condition, but the cause could be multiple. It could be coming from their habits, their cultural ways of eating, emotional eating. It can come from stress. It can come from insulin resistance, a sedentary life. It can be so many things that just cause this one thing. Or, for example, if you take a leaky gut situation, which is one condition or one disease, which then leads to many different symptoms, which could be from autoimmune disease to infections, depression, anxiety, malnutrition, obesity. So you see that it can work both ways. So to dig into that, and to even for diabetic management, it's not just saying here's a pill for your diabetes. It's to dig out and the mental aspects, the cultural habits, to work within that and try to solve the situation for the patient, right? I mean, that kind of approach seems to have, it kind of treats many things all at in one shot. It's a very holistic sort of approach towards one disease, which then the patient feels it. They can feel the difference.
How are you able to apply functional medicine to your clinical practice? I mean, like, does it help improve overall quality of life? Like, what labs and tools are at your disposal? If you were to point out, a difference between your approach now versus what it was, like, say, 7-8 years ago.
Yeah. So, it has a functional medicine approach has become integral to my practice, right? To address the root cause is very important. I have to explore personal limitations to achieving health, what the patient really wants, what are their cultural barriers, their mental and emotional health. Again, I am limited by this lack of insurance coverage, right? I mean, this concept is very new. So even the time spent with the patient is not necessarily reimbursed. However, I do see that it's starting to turn around, where preventive health is starting to be better acknowledged by the insurance companies. But I think it's spending the time, giving the patient time. I think that's the most rewarding thing. They all notice that, hey, the doctor's spending more time with me. And so for me, I think to reach the general population is to work within the insurance model, right? We have to be in there at the same time, offer this alternative sort of pathway. So approach it. I don't necessarily always have to do any fancy testing or anything. There's a lot that's discovered with basic labs that are paid by for insurance. It's just that when things are like really bad or terribly broken, that we have to go a little bit deeper to discover. But so the approach is, for me currently, is to stay within the insurance model and still offer this kind of service.
That's wonderful. So it seems like it's almost like access to care is much better now than what it was before, right? Like, when you view it as an overall system and you are able to incorporate it that way, it seems like, you're still addressing, okay, you want to alleviate pain, you're trying to address chronic conditions or stress or inflammation, whatever that might be, but your approach is now tweaked, so to speak. Is that right? Is that a fair assessment?
That's right. It's it's looking more, it's looking more into the individual, seeing what are their lifestyle like. Most of their problems are coming from ignorance. They just don't realize how the human body and mind work. And when you start educating them, teaching them priorities, for their own well-being, they start to make some behavioral changes. Conditioned behavior is not very easy to correct, but as you inform them and you guide them, I see that a lot of people are willing to respond. It takes a little patience, some understanding, and obviously time to make some big changes. But when they do it, they definitely feel the results of it.
Oh, that's excellent. So it seems like, like whatever conventional medicine earlier used to say, or even the patient themselves, their own understanding, whatever it used to be as, okay, maybe this is genetics, okay, my grandma had it, my grandpa had it, or my parents have it. That's probably why I have this. So it's not necessarily, again, I guess we are used to getting boxed into that approach and thinking certain way. But you're trying to say could possibly more than likely some critical imbalances could stem from, say, lifestyle choices, simply put, or, it could be environment, or what else could it be? What other things you normally see or causes?
Yeah, I mean, the genetic play, I think a lot of, at least in my experience, is because of lack of knowledge, there's a lot of statements made like, oh, it's in my genes, right? And like, let it be hypertension or diabetes or whatever. And it seems to be like a cop-out, like, I can't do anything about it. But I mean, this whole new concept of epigenetics actually gives us knowledge that it is under our control. It doesn't matter that my dad or my grandmom had anything. It's because I can actually control my own genes by my behaviors. And so people can now hopefully feel empowered. It doesn't matter what my genetic history is. If I did the right thing and I protected my genes by my lifestyle, they don't have to express. They don't have to become diabetes. They don't have to become anything. And when you empower them like that, and because they don't have to get these chronic illnesses, they just need to know that it's possible, right? So there's a lot of research coming out, scientifically proven methods with epigenetics saying that, hey, genes can actually be controlled. You're in control of your genes. And so when you start using approaches to protect your DNA, they don't express in a negative way.
Okay. So when you say, gene or anything, like the genetic behavior is under our control, is that through someone's diet and nutrition? How critical is that to someone's lifestyle?
Yes, it's very simple. I try to simplify a lot, and the simpler it gets, it seems the harder it actually is because of our habits. But yes, it's just very simple. I think feed the body and clean it and give it some rest and give it some fun, and it generally will work well. But we've broken down systems with bad nutrition, bad lifestyle, not sleeping well, stressed out. All of these kind of things will just create the wrong chemistry within you, which then harms things.
Is that why then people become susceptible to chronic illnesses and say, autoimmune conditions? They seem to be, like there's plethora of autoimmune conditions that one can name these days. Is that all stemming from, say, a lack of a disciplined approach to one's lifestyle?
100%. I mean, autoimmune, is autoimmune, I am fighting myself is what autoimmunity is. And that seems kind of weird, right? We fight foreigners like bacteria, virus, toxins, this, that, whatever. But if you're going to attack yourself, that's like, wow, that seems like really strange. So there is something that you've activated in your immunity that actually is working against you. And to discover what that might be. Is it an environmental toxin? Is it the foods I'm putting in? Is it a leaky gut? What is it that's making me attack myself? And the discovery of that, and then making lifestyle changes that can repair some of these things and calming down the immunity definitely works.
Okay. One Want to save yourself that trip to the grocery store? Instacart highlights deals to help you save money. You can get products you love from your local stores or last-minute holiday gifts delivered to you in as little as 1 hour. To avail exciting promotions, check the show notes and click the link to shop Instacart. Multiple stores available. Shop all of your favorites on a single order today with Instacart. So what would be someone's approach, in a situation like that to ward off like prolonged illness or whatever, any chronic condition is labeled, okay, you're going to see this for life. Your autoimmune condition is going to remain with you for life. So how can someone ward off prolonged illness?
It's actually just get back to the basics, right? I mean, you just need to have an approach of your body speaks to you. It gives you a lot of information, not just with your symptoms, but also with your lab work. It will give you a lot of information that you can then start tweaking to go in the right direction. Obviously, you need guidance. It's not like, I always say I'm just the messenger. I'm just like the middleman, right? I'm communicating what your body is telling you. And then you better listen. You'll go in a different direction. If you don't listen, you go in another direction. So, and that's it. I mean, it's just about basic stuff. It's not hard things. But like I said, it's conditioned behavior that makes it very, very difficult.
Well, I think, you really nailed it there, and you are breaking it down to, some very, very basic aspects and simple things. So for anyone listening to this podcast, they are going to think, oh, this doctor is fantastic. She's wonderful. For them to understand how you are able to help patients achieve this path to optimal wellness, what is it that you tell them to do? Like in terms of diet and lifestyle, like do you send them to, say, a nutritionist, a practitioner that then works with them and sits and chalks out their diet plan, or how do you go about it?
Well, I think prevention is really important, preventive care. So that I think you start off with just like a basic annual physical, right? Just get your basic labs done. We can diagnose a lot of things early and fix things a lot sooner, just with some knowledge like that. My patients usually get a thorough breakdown of even their very basic labs, right? I just need to see small numbers going off and I'm already pounced on that. So no abnormal finding is left unaddressed. Starting early is really important. I mean, some people call me very strict because, the lab doesn't look too bad, but I'm not waiting for it to be too bad. I just go ahead and let them know that it's already starting to go off and we got to make these changes here. Because if you pivot early, it saves a lot of effort and a lot of dollars later on down the road. So it's not like, if you're asking me, how do I start? It just starts with that. It just starts with simple things. Just get a simple physical, right? Just know where you stand at this moment and we can go from there. Now, people who have bigger issues and bigger problems and stuff, obviously the effort is a little bit more. And we sometimes have to dig deeper. We don't have as much time because it's already they're pretty sick, so we have to jump in with bigger tests and bigger moves, more supplements and nutritional support in terms of even getting a health coach on board to guide them, So we have those in place. So those who need it and are willing to do it, it's available for them.
Do you think every doctor can incorporate this, or how difficult is it, practically to do that? We talked about insurance support and we talked about all of that. So what does one need to do as far as, the knowledge that they need to or equip themselves with as a physician? Is it like certifications? What is it that needs to happen? And number two, how can they translate it in their practice and benefit their patients?
Yeah, I think every physician needs to introspect a little bit. We followed a model of care that hasn't provided health to to millions, right? I mean, in fact, America is more sick than it's ever been. I mean, and we spend more money than any other nation, and where's the health, right? So we've become a sort of healthcare system that manages disease and never brings anybody to health. And so I think when we introspect, we start realizing that, you know, it's not doing what we are supposed to be doing with our practice, right? I think the trend is changing. There's a lot of, you know, with social media and stuff, there's a lot of information now that people can gather, and they want to explore their systems. So I think it is the future of this conventional medicine. So, I mean, functional medicine certification is available. It is an extensive study. It's not easy. And the concept is the approach is different. So it's not like our traditional, what we've learned in medical school is somewhat different from this, but it completes the circle. I felt it completed the circle. So I know now, I've known how to manage with medication if needed, but now I've learned the other half of it is how to guide somebody towards not having medication, right? So it comes around as a full circle. And so it kind of caters to everybody's needs in a way, like, you know, some people have to go very slow. Some people want to go very fast. Some people are not ready at all. And so, you know, it allows a physician to sort of like integrate it all and sort of flow in a way, you know, whatever anybody's ready for, it's available.
So I guess the bottom line here is earlier and effective intervention that can result in long-term patient well-being. Is that right?
Yes.
Okay. And there's so much talk of gut microbiome these days, and, you know, eating colors of the rainbow. And so how significant is all of that? And say you have talked a lot about earlier intervention. Say for someone to understand it better, okay, you're taking the labs, doing some blood work on someone, you're determining that somebody is entering into that hypertension state. How exactly would you address a patient with, say, that type of condition? And in general, how important is this whole gut microbiome?
Well, you know, the gut microbiome is they are good and bad. They can be our friends and they can be our enemies. But mostly I've noticed that if you kind of take care of them, they take care of you. And, you know, we have 10 times more microbiome than we have our own cells. So they are a very, very important part of who we are, right? So if you have a whole bunch of bad bacteria, then that's how your life is going to turn out. And if you have good ones, then that's how you're going to feel it. It's kind of simple. And they need to be well taken care of. You know, you just have to seed them. You know, you got to have them in your gut, and you feed them so that they can kind of grow in there. And I say they take care of us. They produce our vitamins. They detoxify us. They keep the gut lining healthy, which is all very essential to us to absorb our nutrients well. You know, in the Western culture, people are almost scared of bacteria. They're always cleansing and antibacterial and environment personally, and in the environment just killing all the bugs. And it's had its consequences. I mean, part of the reason why we have an unhealthy population is because we don't respect them like we should.
Like even the skin is a source of, you know, absorbing some of the bacteria that you potentially need, correct? So probably, you know, over cleansing is also contributing to,
Right. And the fear of COVID, and, you know, it's that we've lost that balance, you know. Unfortunately, it's all about bringing that all back, you know. And, you know, back in the day, kids used to play in the ground, in the mud and all of that. They were getting it was seeding just naturally. But now we're afraid of all of that, and you keep cleansing and using wipes and all of this. And I understand COVID, but at the same time, it's gone a bit overboard, and we end up suffering it.
Back in a moment with our guest on Fresh Leaf Forever.
How can one build their microbiome effectively and more naturally? rather than, resorting to probiotics and supplements and everything after the fact.
So any fermented food is a probiotic, right? So you can certainly eat a more variety of probiotics, and then you have to feed them. It's because on a daily basis, we do lose a lot of the probiotics. So just by pooping, on a daily basis. So you have to replace it by eating any sort of fermented foods. Different types of them are available. But then it's very important that you feed them, and they love fiber. So here comes all your vegetables and things, and they feed these guys, and they, let's say, diversity, the more different kinds of ones you have, the better for you.
So that's where the importance of eating different colors of the rainbow, like having like a colorful plate, so to speak, comes into the picture, right?
Yes, and color typically is antioxidants. The color is actually interesting because the plant is, they make color as a defense for themselves. So color is a strong antioxidant, and that means it makes our defenses a lot better. So the more colorful food you eat, yes, it's really very good for us.
What is your approach generally? Say, we were talking about, say, an example case scenario of somebody, coming with high blood pressure scenario. So what exactly would you tell them? And does microbiome play a role in their well-being?
Yeah, well, my approach to hypertension is going to be, a detailed history, trying to find the cause of what it might be. It could be a dietary cause. It could be from stress, which these are the two common things. So like a high salt diet, or what we call a sad American diet, which is, just like a lot of carbs and less vegetables and things like that. Eating out, processed food, all these kind of things will salt content, bad oils, all this causes hypertension. Stress is a big deal. Obesity is a problem. So, you can, by taking a detailed history and then just examining the patient, you can usually get to the root cause of why they have hypertension, right? And then the guidance from there. Microbiome definitely gets messed up when we're not eating the right foods or feeding the right things, right?
So, or even sleep, probably, right? Not enough rest can be
stress and sleep are a big deal, and a lot of people now, especially working from home, what I noticed is they actually work more.
Exactly.
And so they sleep at 1 a.m. and that's really not conducive to good health.
Yeah, I mean, I think as much as we need rest, our organ systems, for them to detoxify, I believe, they have like a certain biological clock as well, right? Things need to happen at certain times. Yeah, I think those are great pointers there. What about women's health issues, say prenatal wellness, and even teen girls issues? Those have become, a lot significant than what it used to be. Is it all lifestyle, and how do you help such patients?
Yeah, I think women basically have been neglected or they neglect themselves in a way, right? They're the nurturers of the family. However, they don't prioritize themselves at all. It's like taking care of everybody else before they take care of themselves. And that definitely hits them. I think if the woman in the house was healthy and well and happy, then the whole family just generally thrives. And so mostly what I see with the women is stress and then hormonal issues. Usually from the stress flows the thyroid issues and insulin irregulation and estrogen, progesterone, cortisol. Everything's gone out of whack, and then they have all the symptoms that follow that. So I generally tend to target in emotional well-being. It's a big component. They stress about their kids' future and just running around trying to get everything done. To give them some purpose, some goals, to resetting their role within the family dynamic, taking things slowly. Like I think in each phase of life, we have different roles to play. And if we try to fast forward that or try to put too much on your plate, you're going to upset the system. So to flow gently through each stage of life, there's a time when you're a mother and that's your focus. There's going to be another time when you want to be a career person or whatever, right? I mean, to integrate that whole thing so that there's a lot of balance within the family structure, that I think is very helpful for everybody. In terms of teens, they have a different set of issues. the most conflict I find is the conflict between expectations. Expectations when they're trying to struggle with their own expectations and what their parents want. And that causes a lot of anxiety. So anxiety, depression, and then from there comes the hormonal issues. Obviously, peer pressure is a big problem. The nutrition is guided by TV and what their friends are eating. And
size 0 is the norm.
Right. And so sleep is another one, social media, staying up because of these things. It all starts affecting the system. It's not easy. It's not easy to guide them. They have a different perspective. But I find that, when they're more open to suggestion, they seem to also have some, it's like they've come with a different sort of wiring that they are willing to listen. Though change is hard, I see a lot of teens trying to tell their parents how to change a few eating habits and things like that. So I think these kids are going to come around. They just still feel the pressure of expectation.
What about prenatal wellness?
Well, I think it's huge. I believe at the level of the sperm and the egg itself is where life starts. So if the parents are not in good shape, tend to ignore the dad most of the time. But I do like to focus on prenatal wellness and people who are really, really interested. We do have this Genova test, which is a nutritional evaluation, and it goes pretty extensive into to all the nutritional needs and the lack of them or whatever. And I think, if you want to produce the next generation in well-being, then you start at taking care of yourself first. And so sometimes I do tell, hey, pause for a minute because all your labs are looking not very good. We need to fix some of these things before you even plan to conceive. And because that just gives everybody, the baby, a good head start, right?
Yeah, makes sense. What about men?
Oh, men are, they seem to carry a kind of different load. It's one of responsibility, providing for the family. So they end up with a lot of stress, poor sleep. And then because of all this, they don't have the time to make proper choices with nutrition, exercise, and all their own health kind of takes a little bit of a backseat. It trickles down into hormonal issues, poor libido, low testosterone levels, relationship problems, and all of this. They're not as forthcoming as women. They don't like to share. They're a little bit more shy and want to, I find men a little bit more closed, But however, somehow when we draw them out and they're handled kind of non-judgmentally, they're willing to open up and explore these situations that they find themselves in, right? So again, it's mostly that. I find mostly that it's just lack of time and a lot of stress.
Yeah, what then is the key to kind of like a common wellness medium or well-being package? If there's 3 things every human being should focus on to remain healthy, what would Dr. A's tips be on that?
It's so simple that makes it so difficult. It's so simple, but I find it the simplicity is where the difficulty lies. It's feed and water yourself well, right? Clean up, both emotionally and physically, which means basically poop and pee and find some time to have some fun and sleep. It's as simple as that, but we've seemed to have a hard time doing it.
Oh, because it has just gone ignored and, it just has not been given the right emphasis. Everybody wants to stay late on their devices, but, at the cost of their sleep, right? So, and there are so many different diets and programs out there. What is it that, you would say somebody should do? Is there something that you would say, okay, go follow a vegan diet or go follow a keto diet? What is it that you would say? And as far as like an overall scenario, we talked about standard American diet. We talked about kind of like an ignored well-being aspect. Again, with all due respect to every physician out there, it's not like everyone ignores their patients. That's not the point here. But I guess, we are more prescription centric than the root cause centric because of so many reasons in the system, right? Like not being able to spend time. We talked a lot about all of that. Is that the scenario world over, you think? Because this podcast is global, and so it makes sense to discuss a world scenario. What about all these diets that are out there? So what should someone...
Yeah, I mean, I don't tend to prescribe any particular diet. I find it more helpful to individualize it, right? Like it's customize it to your particular scenario, whatever your culturally your habits are. The difficulty lies in change. And so there is not any one thing that I can say is it's all based on whatever comes up and what fits into your life. But the simple thing is we are engineered in such, body's a machine. It's engineered in such a simple way that we are tied to nature. And as much as we don't want to believe it, the simplicity lies in going back to how the body can absorb the best nutrients naturally. And it comes from clean, unprocessed, raw, just natural food that, from like just that, that's the best way to get everything. So we only need all these supplements and all these other things when we've gone off on that very basic thing and loaded up on the wrong types of foods and destroyed certain things and stuff like that. So that I don't have any one formula for anything. It's all based on individual needs and requirements and whatever shows up.
No, but generally, people tend to say, oh, eat the different colors or, eat a lot of green leafy vegetables. So is there like...
Yeah, that's a given. I think that's a given. Like in the colorful foods, the more fiber in your diet, the more variety. You do get a lot of nutrition just with those simple moves. But that's just like very basic. Yes, you should be doing that. Yeah.
Okay, good. What about, the world scenario when compared to whatever we are seeing here?
Yeah, I find that we have destroyed our land a lot. I mean, the land quality, the soil quality itself is a mess. We've put too much fertilizer in there. There's no natural minerals and stuff in the soil anymore. So even the foods that we get, unless you buy some organic foods and things like that, it's difficult to find the nutrition within the food itself. So it has become a struggle. It's become a problem, I think, all over the world, where nutritional quality of the foods has degraded so much. But even within that scenario, you can do well. If you just supported that system well, you might need to take a multivitamin just to support it, just to make sure you're getting some of all these essential nutrients. But mostly, we just have to go back to the basics.
What about, say we all are in this work from home culture because of the pandemic. Some are fans of working from home, some are not. What is the need and the emphasis on people, having this underlying aspect of, okay, get up and move every half hour or, make sure exercise is part of your routine. How important and how critical is all of that to someone's well-being? And what is it that you're finding that people are doing or not doing that you would like to emphasize on here?
Yeah. Like I find a lot of, I think men and women sitting a lot. I mean, they get too engrossed in their work, and then it's before you know it, it's like 8 hours. So they say sitting is the new smoking, right? Because it really does cause inflammation. Your blood doesn't circulate like it should. It clogs up things. So you should be getting up and moving. You should do some cardio for the heart, circulation, some stretching. You have to have some. It doesn't have to be extensive. It doesn't have to be a lot. It can just be 10, 15, 20 minutes, but on a daily basis with consistency, it works. And when you combine that with a good nutritional diet and drinking enough fluids, it really just starts clicking really well. People think that they've got to do 1 hour in the gym and all that. It's not necessary. just start small and create better habits. And most importantly is consistency.
And all that definitely helps to ward off inflammation and ward off, the stress aspect and all of that. And you talked about emotional well-being. What about the role of meditation? What about the role of, say, a mindfulness exercise or incorporating it, into someone's lifestyle?
Yeah, I mean, it's a huge component of what I suggest. It's learning to have mindfulness practices is really important, right? Even it just gives you a moment to make better choices in your life. When you're mindful about everything you're doing, right? Mm-hmm. Before you putting something in your mouth, you just like, how is this beneficial to my system? If you don't have that pause, you kind of just compulsively doing things that end up hurting you. So I do teach people breath work. I teach them how to give them some meditative practices, a gratitude journal, and a lot of these new biohacking mechanisms that help. So I think it's huge. Without a proper mindset, you can't go anywhere.
Okay, that's very well said. And what about your website, contact info, and any social media presence or anything that you would like to share? And also any resources or podcasts on functional medicine so people can get a better understanding of the whole thing.
Sure. Yeah. My website is ayuwellnesscenter.com. That's AYUH, wellnesscenter.com. And yeah, we're on Instagram and Facebook. And I mean, if you're local here in Atlanta, Georgia, my office number is 678-585-1639. The podcast that I would recommend is actually by my mentor, Mark Hyman. Mm-hmm. He's a physician, Dr. Mark Hyman, and the podcast is called Doctor's Pharmacy, the pharmacy spelled with an F, mm-hmm. Pharmacy. And he goes into a lot of different topics about, the approach, the functional medicine, the social aspects, all of it. So that's a really good podcast. And then the other one I listen to is Ben Greenfield. Mm-hmm. He's actually an athlete. He's a triathlon person, and he does a lot of his own biohacking in a way. He experiments on himself, so the results are like really experiential. And when he shares them and he gives us techniques of how to incorporate it within your life, it can be somewhat life-changing, yes.
Okay. Awesome. And thank you so much for being on the show, Dr. Alexander, and thank you for your time. I think this definitely is a good eye-opening experience for people to learn and get to know about functional medicine and the role for other practitioners and say new resident doctors to kind of segue into this area so they can have like a wholesome 360 approach to dealing with their patients and helping them. Thanks a lot for being on the show and look forward to catching up again in the future.
Thank you. Thank you so much.
As always, listeners, follow the podcast, subscribe to the podcast, leave a review from whatever podcast app you choose to listen to this podcast. Follow me on Instagram at YPKumar for all things digital media and lifestyle. I will see you back again with yet another interesting guest and yet another interesting topic. Until then, it's your host, Vi, saying so long.